This is Ryan and Ryan from Marketing Management and Money. We are covering another news and noteworthy section of our podcast. And this one I want to look at is all about burnout. I read an interesting article that came out this week from Utah Business Magazine titled "Employees Are Still Burnt Out from the Pandemic." Caught my attention, so I thought I would start reading. And one of the things that really struck me is that, according to this article, they are stating that burnout globally has increased steadily since 2016 and dramatically in 2020. So basically, we're all pushing it too hard. We're running around like mad and not taking time to enjoy. And, we're giving up quality of life for progress. Those are my words, not the article.
Well, and that's super interesting because at first I'm like, what? In 2020, burnout increased significantly? Like, people got sent home. People were on hold. And at first I was like, well, that's crazy. That doesn't make any sense. But you think about it. How many people were like bored out of their minds? How many people were restricted from all the things that they loved doing, all the things that kept them refreshed and like ready to rock and roll, ready to go fight win at work even when the work they were doing wasn't what they absolutely loved. You know what I mean? So there's kind of this, while it's increasing steadily even over the precursor years, you have this extra added little bump when people can't get out and get that recovery that they really need. And, so you use the word boredom, and I'm actually going to scrap that because that one is a little bit misleading. But then you kind of went into more of what I would consider the accurate statements of saying they weren't able to get out and do those things that were rejuvenating to them. Yeah. And that's really what spiked it in 2020. But the fascinating thing is pre-pandemic, it was already starting to increase pretty steadily since 2016. Now, according to the article, it basically goes with technology being the number one factor. And that is, so we think we have all of this freedom, all of this luxury because it's like, I can just leave work early. And if I need to check my email, I've got it right there on my phone. Or if someone needs to get a hold of me, I can do a work meeting in my jammies and, and it's this idea of like, wow, how neat is that? But the problem is we never stop. Right. Because we can do it in our jammies, we're no longer sleeping when we're in our jammies. We're still working when we're in our jammies. We're no longer, we go for a hike, and instead of enjoying nature and turning our brains off to kind of just take in all of those sensations, we're still on the phone because we now have reception up there. Yeah. We're not accessing those different parts of our brain. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And we're not letting those parts of our brain that need the rest, we're not actually letting them rest. You know what I mean? So this is definitely in my wheelhouse. This is my jam. This is what I like to dive into. I'd be really interested to get into the nitty gritty of this research and see what's really kicking around here. But before we get into the nitty gritty of this research, let's just throw some common sense at it. Sure. Okay. So kind of take it and talk about, you were going off on, well, hey, you're not getting a chance to rest. And like, what is that? Because I understand, I like to exercise a lot, and, you have your hard days, you have your easy days, and you have your rest days. And that makes sense to me on a, like a strength and conditioning, level. But my brain, is my brain sore from, working all yesterday? Oh yeah, absolutely. So we have this interesting, concept or dynamic in therapy and psychology, right? When especially in group dynamics, when you have, whether it's like an AA group setting or some sort of a support group setting, if it's, veterans that have returned and they're regularly meeting for support. You have this interesting, and this is just one of the many aspects of group dynamics in a therapeutic type of a setting, where the group will kind of go on this roller coaster ride, right? They'll dive down deep into the trough of a therapeutic nature in terms of the setting, and they'll really be getting into some deep emotional connection, some hard things, and then you come back up out of that, and everybody's really lighthearted and jovial and joking, and it's really superficial. You don't really get into anything nitty gritty, and it almost feels like when you reflect on it, it almost feels like, well, that was a waste of time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we need that. Our psychologies, our psyches, our energies, whatever you want to call it, we need that time to kind of take this breath, like, okay, I can do this again. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's part of that connection cycle. And I'm going to kind of go off on my own little tangent here.
We love it.
This is absolutely not like researched, or I don't know, maybe it is.
I'm sure it's researched, but
I haven't looked
your
into
spin.
This is my own spin. So I absolutely believe that we have this connection to each other as people, right? But we also have that to different elements within these worlds that we exist in, whether we are in the middle of Manhattan in New York City, or we're in the middle of the Rocky Mountains over in Colorado, whether we're grounding ourselves in nature or in a simple rooftop garden in Manhattan, right? In some way, shape, or form, there are different elements that we get in touch with. And it's important to kind of go through similar cycles, like I talked about, to really have a full and complete relationship with each of those different aspects of our lives to maintain that wholesomeness, to maintain that balance, to avoid the burnout, to not get sucked into this, I'll just check my phone while I'm up there kind of a thing. And man, I see that kind of crap all the time, and it's a killer for people. And even myself, like, I'm total hypocritical right now.
Right.
Speaking on the horn here. But I try my best to keep myself in check, right? It's seriously, sometimes it'll be like, no, I'm leaving my phone in the car when I'm going out on this hike, or I'm just playing with my kids right now.
Yeah, I'm leaving my phone when I'm playing with my kids.
Yeah, we're going to sit down for family dinner, and I'm going to freaking put it in the freezer so I can't hear it go off. On purpose. That definitely didn't happen on accident because I was so burned out.
So some of the other things that I talked about with burnout that I think are really important is, we look at the work environment, and this is for anyone that's in a management position. You can easily burn out your employees with, overburdening them. And that's what people think of with burnout. But there are some interesting things that I didn't at first picture as burnout, but they totally lend themselves to burnout. They create burnout. Some of those things is ambiguity, not being clear in what job responsibilities are.
Interesting.
And so if you have an employee who doesn't really know what they're supposed to be doing, that creates burnout. Some of the other things were giving them tasks that are misaligned with their skills, abilities, or interests.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
sure.
If you're given a task that you're just like, I don't know how to do this. I hate doing this, know, and then that can also, cause burnout. So it's not always these obvious things of, let's push. It can be a misalignment. It can be, dissatisfaction. It can be a myriad of things. But the sign is, if you are pushing and it's just, you're not going anywhere, you're getting discouraged, your quality of work has dropped considerably, the productivity has dropped considerably,
the vibe's not there.
Yeah.
There's that dissonance.
Well, and then here's the other thing that I thought was super interesting, and this is a mistake that I'm currently making. It talked in this article about how people, they use the weekend to recover. And if you are burned out, like, you need to make life changes. The weekend, sure, it'll be great, but
then you're diving right back into the burnout.
And that was the point, is to say, if you're going right back into that same negative situation, then you're going to get burned out and you won't recover fast enough. And so each time it's just kind of ebbing away as, you get more burned out, and then you've got less recovery, more burnout, less recovery, more burnout, less recovery. And pretty soon that recovery is not even there. And it mentioned things like, the weekend recovering. It mentioned, people that are using yoga and outdoor and, hobbies as a way to recover. But it's getting to the point that people, they're having to schedule it in, and then it's just one more thing that they're just like, oh, okay, I got to get to my yoga class. And so I'm going to hurry and make it to my yoga class, because then I got this and then I got this. And then, and it becomes a task, not a recovery.
Yep.
And it's just, oh man, as I was reading this, I'm like, guilty. Oh, man, there's me again.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, this can manifest itself, like you're saying, in a myriad of different ways, right? Oftentimes we think of people getting burned out, and then if it really takes effect on them, they start drinking or something to cope with it.
Sure.
But as human beings, we have an incredible amount of, let me back up. As human beings, we have an incredible capacity to cope with things, right?
Okay.
We find
we're stronger than we think we are.
Well, we are, but we're definitely stronger than we think we are, but we also are very, very creative in the ways we find to cope with things, right? Whether that's a bag of chips or video games or checking our emails, making ourselves feel more important, that desire, that pride, right? We puff up our own ego, which ends up becoming more of a detriment to us, essentially, right?
Yeah.
All of these things, any kind of addiction, it doesn't have to be, freaking cocaine or whatever.
Right.
We can, we find all kinds of different ways to cope. And oftentimes, more often than not, it's an unhealthy way of dealing with these unhealthy situations that we have in our lives. So like you're saying, it's not necessarily that we need to change jobs or whatever. And since this is a short discussion, we'll kind of wrap up with this. It's not necessarily that we need to go out and make these huge life changes, but it's a matter of taking what you have in your life and understanding what role it plays in your life. Is this a key piece of my life, or is this a coping mechanism? And if this is a key piece of my life, how do I take this key piece of my life and make it so that it's not something that requires a coping mechanism in order to continue to keep doing that key piece of my life, right? Or how do I keep doing that key piece of my life? How do I keep doing that key piece of my life in a way that allows me to function normally in the other aspects of my life, right?
Mm-hmm. No, so, I love that, kind of just putting first things first. And, so I guess this is what I'm going to say. Go spend some time with your family. Go spend your time with your friends. Those, those relationships that matter.
Yeah. Lay on your back, look up at the clouds.
Yeah. Do some nice things.
Yeah. All the things that you used to do as a kid.
Right.
You know what I mean? Unless you had a really horrible childhood. Don't do those things. Anyway.
We're trying to end on a good note.
You guys are fantastic. That's a good note. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for listening. Seriously, we appreciate you guys so much. Feel free to reach out to us at any time. We're happy to help. Ryan at marketingmanagementmoney.com. Take care, and we will catch you next time. Take control of your business today. Go to learndesk.us and search Marketing Management and Money for the small business insights you've always wanted. Be sure to stay tuned for new episodes on the first and third Wednesdays of every month, and make sure to subscribe to be notified when we release bonus content such as interviews and short discussions.